In 2025, what seemed like a distant conflict in the Middle East suddenly dragged the entire world back into the anxiety of the Cold War era. It began when Israel, citing Iran's nearing possession of nuclear weapons, launched airstrikes on Iranian military facilities. Soon after, the United States deployed B-2 bombers, using bunker-busting bombs to destroy 3 of Iran's nuclear sites. During the 12-day conflict, Iran fired missiles at Israel in retaliation. Though short-lived, this intense and dangerous exchange drew global attention. Is Iran truly close to possessing nuclear weapons? If they had nuclear arms, would they still be so vulnerable to airstrikes? Why are some countries allowed to have nuclear weapons, while others are forbidden from developing them? What truly maintains peace in the world? The film Oppenheimer became a global box office hit, not merely because it tells the story of a brilliant physicist, but because it marks the beginning of nuclear history. In 1942, the United States launched the Manhattan Project, secretly assembling the world's top scientists to develop the atomic bomb. Robert Oppenheimer, often called the father of the atomic bomb, struggled with the morality of his creation while achieving a scientific breakthrough that culminated in the first nuclear test in New Mexico in July 1945, codenamed Trinity. Historically, the United States is the only nation to have used nuclear weapons in warfare. In 1945, the US dropped an atomic bomb called Little Boy on Hiroshima, followed 3 days later by Fat Man on Nagasaki, causing approximately 210,000 deaths. These were the first and only times nuclear weapons were used in war. According to the Federation of American Scientists, 9 countries currently possess nuclear weapons: Russia, the United States, China, France, India, Israel, North Korea, Pakistan, and the United Kingdom, with a combined total of about 12,660 warheads. Russia and the US possess the largest stockpiles, with 5,977 and 5,428 warheads respectively, making up over 90% of the global total. Since then, nuclear weapons have evolved. From the early atomic bombs to the more powerful hydrogen bombs, the world has entered an era of the nuclear triad: missiles launched from land, submarines, and strategic bombers. These advancements have reshaped warfare and global security structures. One of the world's most powerful nuclear weapons today is Russia's S-28 Sarmat, nicknamed Satan II, capable of carrying multiple independently targetable warheads, with a range of up to 18,000 kilometers, allegedly able to destroy an entire country. Another historical milestone is the Tsar Bomba, tested by the Soviet Union in 1961, with a yield of 50 megatons, the largest nuclear explosion in human history. During the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union adhered to the doctrine of mutual assured destruction, meaning any nuclear attack would result in the total annihilation of both sides. This paradoxically prevented anyone from initiating a strike. As famously put, "If you don't kill me today, I will kill you tomorrow." This terrifying balance has maintained the era of peace we live in today. However, this deterrence is built on deep mistrust, the risk of misjudgment, and technological errors. History is filled with moments when humanity nearly stumbled into nuclear war. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis saw the US and USSR in a 13-day standoff, with the world on the brink of nuclear conflict, until both sides eventually backed down. In 1983, Soviet officer Stanislav Petrov detected what seemed to be a US missile launch. Believing it was a false alarm, he chose not to retaliate, earning the title, "The Man Who Saved the World." In 1995, Russian radar misidentified a scientific rocket as an incoming nuclear missile. President Boris Yeltsin activated the nuclear briefcase, but refrained from launching after clarification. Beyond misjudgments, nuclear weapons have altered international dynamics and military behavior. Some online joke that nations like North Korea and Russia, due to their nuclear arsenals, prevent the US from launching direct attacks, avoiding large-scale conflicts. In contrast, countries without nuclear deterrents like Iraq, Libya, Syria, and now Iran, are more vulnerable to military interventions by the US and its allies. Nuclear weapons are both a safeguard and a ticking time bomb. They make war less likely, but if war erupts, it becomes uncontrollable. Without nuclear weapons, would the world be more peaceful, or would conflicts escalate? One thing is certain: if nuclear powers fail to respect red lines, it could mean the end of human history. Not every country can join the nuclear club. Some pursue nuclear arms to become regional powers and gain influence. Others seek them for defense, hoping to deter neighboring threats and ensure national security. Aside from the 9 nuclear-armed nations mentioned earlier, several others once possessed or nearly acquired nuclear weapons. but were forced to abandon them due to external pressure. Ukraine inherited a large nuclear arsenal after the Soviet Union's collapse, but returned them to Russia in 1994 under the Budapest Memorandum, in exchange for security assurances from the US, UK, and Russia. Yet in 2014, Crimea was annexed, and in 2022, Ukraine was invaded. Libya's Gaddafi voluntarily gave up nuclear ambitions in 2003, hoping to gain Western favor. But in 2011, NATO bombed Libya during its civil war, and Gaddafi was killed on the street. North Korea later declared, "Gaddafi is a lesson on why we must never give up our nuclear weapons." In 2003, the US invaded Iraq under the pretense of weapons of mass destruction, only to find none. Nevertheless, the regime was toppled. South Africa remains the only country to have developed nuclear weapons, and then dismantled them all. Aiming to show goodwill following the end of apartheid, Taiwan began secret nuclear development in the 1970s, and was close to success by 1988. However, the US strongly opposed its ally going nuclear, fearing regional instability and a potential arms race with China. When Zhang Jianyi, deputy director of the Nuclear Institute, defected to the US and exposed Taiwan's program, it was shut down. For nuclear armed states, these weapons act as insurance, keeping conflicts limited, but for those trying to develop them, nuclear weapons are a death sentence, prompting international military responses in the name of peace and balance. These stories reveal a hard truth. Nuclear weapons are more than just arms. They represent the most sensitive red line in international politics. Without them, you risk being bullied, but if you try to acquire them, you may become a target for attack and global condemnation. While nuclear arms are the most feared, the world faces other, emerging weapons of mass destruction. Biological and chemical weapons, though cheaper to make, are deadly and hard to defend against. A small vial of anthrax or a virus could infect thousands, and collapse healthcare systems. History has seen the use of gas, viruses, and bacteria as weapons, with devastating effects. Cyber warfare is also a growing national security threat. Hackers can paralyze entire power grids, communication networks, or even remotely disrupt nuclear facilities, creating chaos and panic. In space, a quiet arms race is unfolding. The US, Russia, and China are developing space lasers, missile interceptors, and anti-satellite weapons. An attack could disable military satellites and shut down GPS, communications, and global financial systems. The rise of AI military technology brings further concern. Autonomous drones, AI command systems, and robotic kill machines may boost efficiency, but also increase risks of misjudgment and loss of control. Despite technological progress, nuclear weapons remain the most destructive and symbolically powerful strategic tools, capable of shaping world order. If Russia and China strengthen their alliance with Iran, the world could be dragged into a new multipolar confrontation, a prelude to a global hot war, under the structure of a new Cold War. This is not an alarmist statement, but a real reflection of today's geopolitical landscape. Whether Iran has nuclear weapons remains uncertain, and it's still debated whether US airstrikes truly destroyed its nuclear sites. But with US intervention, this Middle East crisis appears to have passed. Nuclear weapons, are they the final shield of national security, or a doomsday clock for humanity? In a world of rapidly advancing technology and growing geopolitical instability, we must ask, is peace built on a balance of terror truly stable, or is it on the brink of collapse? The continuation of human history rests in the hands of the 9 nations that hold the launch keys to nuclear warheads. This fragile peace, forged at the edge of destruction, may well be the most human outcome of all.